Hello and welcome to this week's Market Talk. We're delighted to be joined by Nathan Jones, who's the Managing Director of Gamble Foodservice Solutions, and also Sergey Chekmerev, who is the Senior Market Research Consultant at the MPD Group. Hello to you both. Thanks for joining us. Sergey, we'll begin with you. It's obviously been, I imagine, a very busy year in the research world, given what has gone on. And as a subject to begin with, let's kick off by talking about delivery. That's really been a big theme for many parts of the market. What is your take on that sector at the moment, and how do you see delivery evolving now that dine-in is back open again?
Yes, hello Andrew, hello Claire, hello Nathan. It's very nice to be here with you today. Delivery. Well, what a year it has been for delivery, because it's grown tremendously and it's been the lifeline for a lot of operators. For those who have managed to quickly switch into the delivery mode, they actually gained and have been thriving throughout this last 15 months. Some of the bigger operators who've been very quick in realizing how important delivery was and adjusting their businesses, they're actually doing quite well, and they've been reporting record quarters this year already. So delivery could make or break you over the pandemic, and it mostly made a lot of operators. I have to mention that the ones who have been doing particularly well are, of course, pizza chains. They've been doing delivery for years, and it was very easy for them to switch over to total delivery. The other segment of the market was the quick service, ethnic. We call them ethnic. It's the restaurants that serve Chinese, Indian, Turkish, cuisines. They've been doing delivery for years as well, and that was their year. Our data show that they've grown tremendously over the last year to April, actually. So what's going to happen with delivery now when industry is reopening and dine-in is finally available? That is a £1 million question, because everybody wants to know, and we are not alone there, how it will develop once dining rooms have reopened. Well, so far, it seems there was a bit of a slowdown, but the slowdown wasn't very significant. Although we do know that over the course of last week, when the proper dining has reopened, some chains and some operators have claimed that they had tremendous level of sales compared even to pre-pandemic 2019 levels. But that a bit of a pent-up demand, isn't it? Because people were waiting for so long to actually go and eat out, and they poured in. But that will go away and go back to normal. So it will be very interesting to see how delivery will continue, and if the success will continue. We do think it will. The growth rates will obviously decline, but it is here for a long run. What we can also say, because we are in a global business and we have a company that operates under our name in China, and they have left they're out of the pandemic mode for almost a year now, well, less than a year, but they sort of saw everything reopening last year. And what they were telling about China was that delivery is actually going strong, even stronger than pre-pandemic. But then China is a very different market. So maybe this pattern will not be repeated here in the UK. But, well, let's just wait and see.
Yeah, I think it certainly had the effect of introducing people into the delivery market that weren't accustomed to it before, and I guess a lot of operators are now hoping they can hold on to that custom. Nathan, if we bring you into the conversation, how does this translate in terms of kind of kitchens and the supply of equipment? I know you work with a number of brands that have delivery solutions. Presumably, you've seen real demand for those in the last few months.
Yeah, I think it's important to know that this part of the industry, it's not new. This was evolving for the past sort of 3, 4, 5 years, so to speak. But what this, I think collectively, it's no surprise that what this pandemic has done is accelerated any of those sort of trends that were kind of originating prior to COVID, and kind of condensed sort of trends that would ordinarily take 2, 3, 4, 5 years, so to speak, and condense that down into the last sort of 18 months. And yeah, you're right. In terms of our full portfolio of offerings that we supply into the market, it's no surprise that from a Hatco point of view, but also from an FWE point of view, from our stance in terms of hot holding, I think it's no secret that an effective sort of chain, QSR, restaurant, there is going to be, to deliver to the consumer demand, there is an element of hot holding involved in that. And what this sort of delivery sort of trend, the accelerated, has kind of pushed forward sort of various innovation, should we say, from our offering, and it's kind of forced our manufacturer supplier partners to kind of accelerate any innovation from their part and kind of and bring that to the fore sooner rather than later in that regard.
Yeah, so Nathan, what type of products have been added to your portfolio then over the past 12 months? Is there anything that's really stood out as a big innovation?
Yeah, I mean, it's not so much, again, as I say, it's not added. It was from our end. From the benefit we're in is that the majority of our supplier partners are American based in that sense. So, and it tends to be historically that a lot of the concepts and trends that originate over in the States, fast forward 2 or 3 years, that's when they kind of get introduced into our sort of market. So the benefit that we've got in terms of our relationships with our supplier partners is that we're kind of ahead of the game in that sense. So we can kind of hit the ground running when certain concepts or trends are introduced into the market. So a prime example at the moment, I would say, would be sort of hot holding shelves, and in particular the locker systems that we get inundated with inquiries from consultants, from operators, from the dealer distributor market, and yes, it is in advanced stages, but the biggest hurdle that we're having at the moment is the software element of it. The functionality in terms of individual lockers, heated, ambient or chilled, that's not a problem. We can adhere to those demands, but it's actually the software integration, and more importantly with the third-party delivery groups, not specifically with the actual restaurant integration. It's more with the Uber Eats, with the Deliveroo guys, and how the actual interface syncs with the various sort of APIs and aggregators with the actual devices, so to speak. But we are actively currently working with some global groups in that sense, just trying to kind of get that over the line. But it's the software element which is proving the most sort of demanding, shall we say, at that stage. So, but yeah, no, it's exciting times, definitely.
Interesting. I just want to pick up something that you said and run with that thread with Sergey. So what are the particular operator concepts or sectors that are really winning through at the moment? So fast food, for instance, seems to have been going relatively well. What ones do you see as being the best prospects for this next year, Sergey?
Yeah, that's exactly the case. The fast food operators, they're all doing quite well in all the sectors. Chicken is especially popular, and all the chicken operators are showing very good results. Burgers are not doing quite well as well, especially in the market where all the other major supplier of burgers, the pub, has been closed for most of the time. So as well, and again, they've started their delivery transformations before the pandemic. Probably the bigger players have joined into the delivery game back in 2017, 2018, and so they did have a lot of time to get ready, and they were sort of ready. Interestingly, Nathan mentioned technology and software, and I've just been to one of the fast food restaurants recently, and they cater to a couple of delivery aggregators, and it is absolutely, it's obvious there how difficult it is to integrate different technologies and different integrators into your operations. You end up having multiple devices in front of your staff, and they have to figure out what is what and which is which, and you know which order came from which device. So software integration plays a vital role in the delivery being successful going forward. But as I mentioned earlier, other fast food operators who have embraced delivery, like Indian local places, they've been served. So basically, those who have been serving local communities, they've been doing quite well, and those who have been focused more on commuters and office centres, they have done really, really poorly. All these sandwich chains, coffee chains, they've been really struggling over the last 12 months.
How much attention, Sergey, are you paying to that market, the kind of the commuter marketplace? So as you said there, a lot of the sandwich chains are quite concerned that the numbers won't be as high as they were in the past, but contract caterers that work for big offices and corporations and so on are obviously concerned about what this means for their model. Do you think that market will recover, or will it never be the same again?
It will eventually recover. It will be different, and you know the key question is when it will recover. And this question is very difficult to answer because it is very much linked to the government and what decisions the government will make as far as working from home advice is concerned, social distancing is concerned, back to normal commuting is concerned. So that's one question that needs to be answered, and that will play a big role in the fate of these chains. And the other question is whether companies will go back to having majority of their employees working from offices most of the time, which will not be the case, and we know that. At least this summer, and I know a number of companies who have already confirmed that until September, they do not want their workers back into their offices. So summer, let's say, will be somewhat lost for those who concentrate on commuters, or morning commuters or evening commuters for that matter. But then come September, probably things will start to get normal or fairly normal, again, depending on how the virus situation develops. And then maybe towards the kind of end of next year, I can expect that everything is going to be back to normal. Somewhat, probably these chains will still suffer a little bit, but in general, the situation will improve greatly.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay. And Nathan, coming to you, and sort of looking at how Gamble has fared during the pandemic and how you're kind of recovering from all the challenges of the past year. But, you know, the market reopened for outdoor dining in April, and we're sort of 10 days into the indoor dining now taking place once again. How have you seen a sort of marked change from a business point of view? Are you sort of firing in all cylinders again as a business and back out there in the marketplace?
Yeah, definitely. I think from our part, I mean, we didn't close the doors once throughout the whole period, and it's been quite interesting because you can't. There was no pattern in terms of forecasting or anything like that. There was 1 week we're down, next week we're up. It was just remarkable. But I have to say, over the past sort of 6 weeks to 2 months or whatever, there's been a steep, well, a gradual sort of incline in terms of activity. From our part, yeah, from a hot holding perspective, we well, credit to our ops team as well is all I can say in terms of our inventory and stock levels, in that sense, adhering to the various demands that are kind of out of our control, but also on that basis, it's been, I mean, so far I focus predominantly on hot holder, but I have to say in terms of our prime cooking from an imperial stance as well, the amount of consignments that we've taken delivery of over the past sort of 2 or 3 months, compare that to previous years to adhere to the demand that's in the market, couldn't be happier to a certain degree in that aspect for where we stand currently from a figure point of view, shall we say. And yeah, long may that continue along that path, shall we say.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, Nathan. So, I mean, you guys at Gamble, you had a little bit of a management reshuffle at the beginning of this year, which saw you step up to this joint MD role. So could you tell us a little bit about that and how it's been in your increased responsibility position over these last few months?
Yeah, gladly. Yeah, it's been a long process, a long sort of 18 months, shall we say. But I don't know. Those who know me well enough in the industry will know that I'm from a sort of a sporting background, and I am known internally for various sporting cliches. So I apologise if I come out with any right now. Then yeah, that's my disclaimer going forward there. But I don't know. I think from my point of view, and therefore our point of view, it's the whole period has been an opportunity, and I think, not just specific to our industry, but society as a whole, and other organisations out there, and that those that are going to come out of this thriving, so to speak, will be those ones that have actually seized it as an opportunity and have adapted to relevant changes in that sense. And collectively, that's effectively what we've done at Gamble's, and it's not been easy. There's been some long sort of sleepless nights and tough decisions that have been made along the way, but for me it's all been geared around the whole sort of culture shift, an ethos here at Gamble's. And at the end of the day, our stance in the industry, or our position in the industry, is we're here to provide a service, and that's a service to the consumers, to the operators, to our dealer distributors, but then also to our supplier partners as well. And a big focus of mine since sort of taking the reins has been to focus on effectively what we do well, and doing it better, so to speak, all geared around the sort of the values and the ethos, and relating that to the all-round experience that people, customers in that sense, have with us, whether that's specification, whether that's procurement, whether that's after sales, the whole all-round experience of dealing and working with us in terms of Gamble's. That's a massive focus of mine.
Good stuff. Hopefully it's going well. Coming back to Sergey now, so is there any research or data collection you've carried out recently for the UK that's really surprised you? Is there anything that's really, you've thought, oh gosh, I didn't realise that was going to happen within the market?
You know what, I'm coming back to it again and again, but probably the biggest, it was probably an expected surprise, but still was a surprise how well all the local smaller chains have been doing over the pandemic, because they've sort of taken over and from those who had to close, and they've filled in the void and provided the service that the local communities were expecting and were missing and needed. I live in St Albans, and we have a Turkish place here that opened, I think, back in May last year, so in the middle of the pandemic. And from day one, it was doing tremendously well, because although they were supposed to open as a dine-in restaurant, they quickly realized that dine-in isn't possible, so we probably should do delivery and takeaway. And they have quickly switched over to this concept, and they're doing very well to this very day. So it's been a year, and you would think, you know, opening during the pandemic, you will be probably faced with all the problems that you didn't expect, but that they turned the adversity into their opportunity. Interestingly, to Nathan's point, that, you know, whoever adapted and managed to change their cultures to the new climate, you know, those who failed during these last 15 months, they were actually failing long before, and they were really sort of shaking and were about to fall. Everybody who was strong, they're still strong today, and they will probably be even stronger going forward.
And Sergey, your role is very much about, you know, analysing the market landscape and looking at trends and obviously predicting how that may turn out in the future and how the numbers may be in the data in the future. You know, this must be very difficult at the moment in such unprecedented circumstances where nobody can really be certain how things will recover. How are you sort of dealing with that on a personal day-to-day level?
Well, that's very difficult sometimes. And again, when everything happened last year, we were thinking, oh my God, what are we going to do? Because you know, a lot of our customers, they just shut down, and we did not know if we were to survive. We were actually doing quite well, to be honest, and everyone is very hungry for information, and everyone is very hungry for the data, and the data is a new gold, isn't it? So it is difficult, especially when it comes to trying to predict how the market is going to look like, and a lot of our customers do ask us to do so. We're obviously doing our best and have developed some sort of a model that helps us to come up with the number and the growth rate for the future. So, but you know, it is not a model. If before you could do it once a year, maybe twice a year, now we'll probably have to do it more often, maybe every quarter, maybe even often, depending on how quickly the situation changes. But it is still possible. It's a lot more work, but it's still possible and quite exciting as well.
Yeah, certainly. And I guess the same goes for you, Nathan. It must be, or it has been difficult to forecast what sales patterns and trends may look like. And I guess hopefully you're looking for a bit more stability now as things reopen.
Yeah, I think so. And I think we've kind of weathered the storm, so to speak, or as I liken it to, we put the fire out and now we're starting to rebuild again. And I think nearly every organisation within our industry is probably following a similar path in that sense. I think from our stance where we are currently in terms of that, it's in a short space of time. For me personally, I wanted to get relevant people in place that kind of epitomizes the sort of core values of what it is that we're founded on in that respect. And the benefit being is that throughout all the hardship over the past sort of 12, 18 months, we've been the key people involved now have been through it all, and that's only going to stand us in good stead moving forwards. We did, from our point of view, initiate a recruitment strategy a few weeks ago for various roles, but mainly in terms of the sales arm of our of our business. And I think, I don't know, it was, I think it was you guys, I saw an article that involved Julian Shine regarding a more of a consultative approach from a sales aspect. And for us, that's been our approach sort of subconsciously over recent years. But I think there's a massive element of, I completely agree with what Julian stated in that article, and that's a big emphasis from our point of view in terms of the relevant consultants out there. But a big part of our offering is based around education and educating the dealer, distributor, the operator, the consultants in terms of the solutions that we can that we offer in that sense. So it's kind of, how do you get that education across without coming across too patronizing as well, so to speak. So it's that balance accordingly. But yeah, no, definitely very much optimistic moving forwards.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Well, we're approaching the end of our session today, but I'll just finish off with a couple of quick questions, one to each of you. So, Nathan, how are you seeing the rest of the year for Gamble then? What kind of focuses do you expect to have?
Yeah, again, going back, focusing on what we do well and doing it better to a certain degree in that aspect. But we've got some kind of major plans that we've implemented, and when the foundations are in place, there'll be relevant announcements coming out from us as a group in that aspect. Just kind of adhering and adapting, as we've all touched on today, to the change within the industry. So, but also relate it back to our core values in terms of our offerings. So yeah, I think so far the biggest upturn from our perspective has been the sort of the leisure, the breweries that have started to reopen again, QSR chain groups. But again, we want to have more of an aggressive approach within sectors that we've not massively been prominent in previously. So B&I, sort of, I noted it down here, contract catering, healthcare, education, that sort of thing. So a focus on sectors that we've not been as prominent in, shall we say.
Rightio. And finally, Sergey, if we really had to nail you down, when would you say that the food service industry would recover to 2019 levels or the levels just before the pandemic?
Well, I think we'll have to wait until the end of next year, until the end of 2022. This is when I think we will be back to sort of levels of 2019. The industry will look a little bit different, so the proportions will be different, but the level will be similar to 2019.
Perfect stuff. Well, let's hope that happens, and it's even sooner. Definitely. You never know. But thank you both for joining us today. Thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Sergey. And we'll see you again next week for another episode of Market Talk.